What's up YouTube, Demi here with the next installation of How I Make So Much Currency. This is part 7 in the series. I'll link the previous one in the description below. But more or less this is a series where I go through screenshots of trades that I've made in the past. I think this is about the past month or so before 3.1 started. And then some screenshots, after 3.1 started. I wanted to get this recorded before Biz League started, but with all the news hype and stuff right before the league started, I didn't quite have time, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. But this is basically a way for me to help teach you guys things that are worth money, or help you learn the kind of value of things. I'll explain what each item's for, what it's used for, what builds could be using it, things like that as we move along. So this one, first and foremost, just level 4 Enlighten. You level these up to 3, you evolve them. If you get plus one level of gems on them, they're usually worth 4 to 6x Enlighten and Power. They're about the same price most of the time. It's pretty easy currency if you just throw them in your offhand weapons. They level up in they get XP in your offhand, and you just do all of them when they hit 3. Or you can sell them as a clean level 3 for a lot less, but it's more steady. This is a risk that the level 3 is a lot steadier. This thing is just a very generic attack ES one. It's damage, physical damage, attack speed, percent ES. So if this were a life-based jewel, it would be similar value. If it was triple damage life, it'd be worth quite a bit. This one, because it's so generic, it's just for a pure physical build. I don't know, it got valued a little bit higher, and this guy wanted to pay 12x for it, so I'll accept that. But this looks weird, I will give you that. So this is an alternate art tabula. You can tell because it's not as creased as the normal tabula. Okay, let me show you the alt art one. Where is it? Right here. You see how clean that looks? That's alt art. And I bought this because I wanted, for a couple reasons. Number one, it was really cheap. Number two, it's going up in value. They discussed making, not MTX, a new 3D art for a tabula, which they showed some previews of before 3.1. And my thought was that this was going to receive that artwork, because the old one, the current normal tabula looks fine with 3D art, but this one doesn't have 3D art yet. So I thought the new art was going to be for the alt art tabula. That's why I picked it up. And it was a good price. This one, standard quad damage jewels. I tend to value quad damage jewels at 3 to 5x basically all the time. If all 4 miles match together and it's for a non-crit build, I go 3 to 5x. This is one good example of that. It's a perfect one for swords. I believe this was one of my last rate Slayer people. Didn't have life on it, so it was a lot cheaper. If it had life on it, it'd be 20x. But oh yeah, this was to show the non-alt art. So this is the normal tabula, and that's the alt art tabula. There's no difference whatsoever. Alright, back to last rate jewels. This is a life damage with a little bit of res. Because it's not that 4th damage mod, the value goes down accordingly. And this is actually interesting. So normally these type of things, non-linked, non-socketed uniques, probably going to sell for a chaos, right? This is an incredibly high roll. It's perfect spell damage, and I think it's 5 off mind laying speed, so it's a very high roll item. And this is a pretty sought after item for miners, like the Glacial Cascade miners that are incredibly meta right now. This is a very high roll, so sold for quite a bit. Alright, so here we have some ES gloves with legacy percent, and they're really good hybrid gloves. 155 ES with Dex Life, 70 res, and the Merc Lab enchant for Craven of Light. Sold them for a couple X, good money. Here we have a legacy percent ES. You can no longer craft percent ES on rings. This is a really nice unset ring, especially for the strength stacking guardians, the RF Scorching Ray guardians with Shaper's Touch gloves. Shaper's Touch gives you percent ES based on your strength, so you play an ES build, but you also stack strength to get more ES. And because this is legacy, it's sold for 13x. Another legacy item. I crafted a bunch of these before the percent dot mod went legacy. I tried to make sure I had a bunch of 20% ES, or 20% reduced dot ES shields, and this happens, obviously the ES rolls went legacy as well now. It's one off Perfectly Divine, it's got 8, it's got reduced dot. It's really good for a low life RF character, and so it sold for 33 exalts. And when this was not legacy, this would have been worth 2 to 5x maybe. So realizing when things are going to go legacy and then adjusting for that, recrafting some suffixes, whatever. I think it had cast speed on it before, so I spent I don't know, maybe an X worth of chaos re-rolling it until it had 20% dot on it, and it netted me a 30x profit. You just gotta like pay attention to what they're changing in the patch notes, and you can profit pretty heavily. Another Legacy ES item. This is one of Purple Plushie's items, the guy that we got the Altar Sapples frame for. But it's a good reduced Patriot Bannerization helm. Not the highest ES, because this is tier 2 Legacy ES flat. But if this was T1, it would have been like 450 ES, so I don't know. It's a really good helm, 10x, whatever. Alright, level 21 skill gems. This is kind of the same concept as the level 4 Enlighten at the beginning of the video. If you level up gems to 20 and get them 20 quality, then you can vol them. If they go up a level, they go up in value pretty high. This is level 21 Desecrate, which is incredibly useful right now for like the Volatile Dead type builds, and it sold for 5x. Random ES Strength belt. So casters, top right at the side of the tree builds, right side of the tree builds, they're always lacking in strength. This belt has 68 strength, ES, 85 res, and some lead. You can take off the lead, put movement speed on. It's a pretty nice belt to start out with. It's pretty cheap. I mean, 70C, but it's a really good belt for a caster type character. I believe this was the 3rd mirror service for Damnation Bind Rustic Sash. It's perfect T1s, not Altar, but I mean, it's Chaos Res, Life Wed, dual T1 Fire Cold. It's a really good belt, like a really good belt, especially for those that don't like using Headhunter because it gets them killed with Reflect. Obviously, that's no longer a thing in 3.1, but pre 3.1, if you use Headhunter and you got like a bunch of mods, as soon as you touch a Reflect pack, you're just dead. So a lot of players at endgame trying to push 100 stopped wearing Headhunter because of that reason. And this guy was one of those. Okay, so this is an interesting one. I got these jewels in Legacy League, I believe, and they're actually 2 of the same jewel. This jewel is this one right here. They were just mirrored out of a strongbox like this. So they're perfectly identical. This guy wanted to buy one of them, but I wanted to sell both of them as a set because like they're both perfect for the build that he wanted to play, obviously, right? But I had 2 of them, and so like I kind of pulled his arm a little bit because they were 9x per, I think, or something like that. So he eventually bought both of them, which I thought was really funny. He just like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll take both. I'm like, alright, cool. What's this thing? This was like a, I want to say 500 something PDPS bleed on hit Flesh Ripper, which is really good for crit axe type characters. I've seen a lot of like crit cycloners want to use this type of axe. And this was one of the ones that I crafted on the route to crafting my mirror tier Flesh Ripper, which is right here. This is actually still the 2nd highest PDPS Flesh Ripper in the game right now, and it's the only one with bleed at that level of DPS, so I'm pretty happy with it. It took us from, I don't know, Christmas 2016 to like May 2017 to get this thing done. Like 140,000 ults and like hundreds of exalts and then way more metacrafting than it should to hit the attack speed roll, but this is one of the byproducts of that run, so we're still bleeding back some of the currency that I spent. And here we have a, what is this thing? This is a Tyrannical Infamy. I don't know what tier flat fizz that is, but it's basically a 7-link mace with weapon range, and I think it was around 450, 500 PDPS. But it's a 6-link with level and blood magic, so you don't have to have any mana issues with your main attack skill. It's really nice because it has weapon range. It's really good for Cyclone and the AoE implicit. Really big mace AoE Cycloner, and I think I had to list it for like 3x, 4x. This guy offered me 2x at a count art, so I said sure. You gotta be willing to take trades like that if you want to, like, if something isn't moving. For example, this I had for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. It wasn't moving, and obviously I didn't change the price on it because I have a lot of stuff in my stash. I don't update my prices that often, but if somebody makes you an offer of similar value and you're getting some currency out of it, I'm always willing to take that type of thing. Alright, here we have a really high DPS Prismatic Ring, which is a weird combination, but it had attack speed, accuracy, T1 Wed, and crafted life, and the implicit resistances. If this was on an opal ring or a steel ring, it'd be worth a lot more, but because it was not a DPS base, the value dropped quite a bit, so I sold it for about 3.5x. Oh man, this one I kind of regret. This was, again, before 3.1. We didn't know Doomfletch was going to go Legacy. This is a 100% perfectly divine Doomfletch, and this was in the middle of the hype with like Ofax Doomfletch build, and I think Neversick made a Doomfletch build. Ziggy D made a Doomfletch build, like I made a Doomfletch build. All of these streamers were playing Doomfletch. It was a pretty meta build, and like this was 100% perfectly divined. I really wish I'd kept this, but this would be worth a lot more now. But I still sold it for 45x, which is fine. I think I paid, I don't know, I divined one of them, and the other one I think I paid like 20x for. Good flip though. Alright, this was in last league. Harbinger League, I guess. I don't know when this was. This was when I played Doomflesh, but I got this Helm Chant like the second day in Uberlab, and it wasn't on PV Trade yet, so I couldn't sell it. I just threw it in my stash tab at 4x and left it there, and it took like most of the league, not most of the league, it took like a while for them to get all the new mods on PV Trade. But once they got the new mods on, then somebody bought it, and so that was cool. Alright, what do we have here? This is the Wander guy from earlier, the one that bought the 2 mirror Jules. Same guy. He's playing an attack Fizz Chaos Wander. I think he was actually playing my Fastest Lemon character, but this is a Legacy ES ring, which you can't get anymore. It's very well divined. It's all T1, T2s. 47 Exalts. Okay, here's another mirror service that I did for Damnation by Rustic Sash. Mirror service is kind of another way to make currency in this game. If you have the currency to make items, or you get incredibly lucky like this, you make an item that's so good somebody else wants to buy it, but you're not willing to sell it, you can sell the service. They'll pay you a fee to, like, they basically give you a mirror, you copy it, and then you sell them the copy for the fee. And this is again the same belt as before. My 61s. Now, this is just a funny moment. Sometimes when you have level 8 masters, they will sell uniques. This is a Heretic's Veil, which used to be worth like 3 to 4x, now it's much less, but I mean 8 chaos for something like that. I've never seen one of these. This is a T1 unique in a vendor. Pretty cool. And then this was immediately afterwards. Like the same time actually, I checked a different vendor, and some of you know that I collect 6-socket unID'd uniques. I don't buy them, so don't PM me trying to sell me them, but I do collect them. People throw them at me all the time. I find them in maps, I keep them. Just for fun really, it's just like one of those things that I'm just like, yeah sure, whatever, I'll try to collect them. So these are all just 6-socketed uniques, and that one happened to be sold from a vendor, which was kind of interesting because I've never sold from a vendor before. I've never found a 6-socket, much less a 6-socket unique. So I had to buy it. Alright, what do we have here? This was again before this went Legacy. This would be worth like 100x now, but +2 Barrage Rat's Nest for 45x. Ran some Uber Labs, hit it, sold it, moved on with my life. Easy money. This is a triple T1 elemental damage jeweled foil. Sadly, it's not the implicit Legacy roll. It used to be like 35% multi or something like that, but still, it's like a 400 something elemental DPS one-handed sword. It's really good for like Blade Flurry builds, Spectral Throw, whatever you want to use that's elemental. This guy's an Inquisitor, obviously, so he's going crit, tri-elemental, ignore resistance, really, really strong build. Really, really cheap endgame weapon, really. It'll carry you through everything in the game, no problem for 25x. What do we got here? Okay, so back to Jules. When I value Jules that have life and damage properties, if they have a multi-roll, it jacks the value up quite a bit because crit builds are always more expensive than non-crit builds. This is a double multi-life jewel, so I think it divines up to like 33% multi or something like that with life. And again, cold res is not the best roll. If it was another damage roll, this would be worth like 20x plus, but because it's just dual multi-life, it was like 5. What do we have here? This is another ES character that came to me. This is a Legacy flat and crafted percent Legacy hybrid percent with dex and int. So a lot of caster builds are lacking on dex, and intelligence always gives you more ES. Each point of intelligence, or sorry, each 5 points of intelligence gives you 1% max ES. So if you have int on a pair of ES gloves, it just multiplies the total ES of the character, so it's really nice. I believe these are one of the pairs of gloves that I chaos spammed way back in the day, and sold for 3x. Alright, so this one is interesting. Again, remember, percent ES on rings with Legacy. This ring I crafted with the Essences of Fear to give minions movement speed, and you can't really make this type of ring anymore, right? This is a +2 Sakura gem, so it's really good for your auras. Like, you have a level 21 Hatred in here, and it would become level 23. And it's got Dex, again, casters need that, mana regen, need that, ES, need that, minion movement speed, really, really good for minion builds because it allows you to clear faster, because they actually, like, keep up with you. And again, Legacy percent ES, so I sold that one for 19x. Alright, this one was just weird. I've never crafted a jewel like this that was this generic, but also really good in every aspect. Like, cast speed, crit multi for spells, those two alone, very good. And then it had life and percent ES on it. And I was like, huh, I've never hit both of those rolls, because these are both prefixes, life and ES, like they're very hard to hit at the same time. And to hit those two with 2 really good DPS modifiers at the same time means a very expensive jewel. So I sold that for 15x. What do we have here? This is a mirror service for Golem Trap. This is the belt I use on my fastest lemon character. This is the same guy as before. He's like gearing out his character. But yeah, it's T1 strength, T2 armor, T2 ES, T1 fire, T1 lightning, and movement speed. That character is Fizz Chaos. It doesn't need elemental damage with attacks, so I didn't worry about that roll at all. But it capped my res. It had a ton of ES, and strength is needed for all of my red gems. So pretty good mirror service. What do we have here? This is an interesting pair of hybrid gloves. It's got T1 Fizz, T1 In, T2 Cold, T1 Lightning, and Crafted Life. It's good DPS gloves, good life resist gloves, really good int. Like, it's just a solid pair of gloves overall. So I sold it for 4x. What do we have here? These are really good spike gloves. Spike gloves are new for the Atlas expansions, and the increased melee damage is really good for attack builds, melee builds obviously. So this has strength, which gives melee damage. Each 5 points of strength is 1% melee damage, so that's 8% melee physical damage, along with the 20% melee damage. And then it has 16% attack speed, 70 life, 45 cold res, and a lot of armor. Like, these are really good gloves, so I sold them for 25x. What have we here? Legacy ES gear. You guys are probably getting tired of hearing me say this, but Legacy ES gear is worth quite a bit. If you have any on your remove only tabs, characters, whatever, if it's in standard and it's well rolled, it'll sell for quite a bit. This is over 500 ES, which is way more than you can achieve. Currently, I think the highest ES you can get is like 380, 400-ish with triple T1 of the new tiers, which are much worse. So again, high ES, int, cast speed, 11x. Oh, this this guy. People seem to ignore prices when I list things. Like, I listed this extremely stupidly high because it's Altar. I don't want to sell it, but I do want it to be on PvE Trade just to like show off a little bit. So he PMs me for this 420.69 exalted item, offers me 20 fusings, and I was like, like, even if it was a normal tabula, it'd be like 20C. 20 fusings is nothing. And I was like, wow, deal. And then I canceled it after I screenshot it. He said, photo, goodbye, and report in forum for troll. So I might get banned for that. I mean, I don't know if that's really my fault. But 20 fusings for a 42,000 exalt item seems like a fair deal. What have we here? Okay, this was just weird. So I had a Carnage Heart. This is a new Carnage Heart without the reduced life mod on it. Got +1 curse on it. In League, these were like 3 to 5x or something. I bought a couple, brought them to standard. This was a really high roll. I listed it for like 50x because there were none on standard. And I was given a +2 Tornado Shot Tempest Binding and a 6 off-color Queen of the Forest. So yeah, I think I did pretty good on that trade up. What have we here? Alright, mirror service again. Same guy. This is the Wander dude. So these are not owned by me, these are owned by one of my viewers, and he just has me have them in my mirror thread for him so he can like be offline or whatever. But these are really, really good gloves. T1 Fizz, T1 attack speed, T1% ES, T1 flat ES, legacy rolls, and then T1 fire, T2 lightning, with Commandment of Fury, which is the best attack projectile enchant by far, 25x speed. What we got here? This is a multi-modded steel ring with %ES, again legacy. So it's T1 flat, T1 fizz, crafted crit, %ES, and all res. Just a very good overall attack-based ring for ES characters, sold it for 15x. Crafted, Vaulted this belt. Whenever you pick up a belt that's like a cloth belt, a studded belt, like the bad bases, chain belt for example, if they have good, relatively good stats, like this had perfect T1 wed, decent life strength, decent res, like it wasn't ever going to sell because it was a cloth belt, so I vaulted it, hit +1 endurance charges, and then I used it on my Juggernaut for a while. But because it has +1 endurance charges, the value becomes much higher than if it were just a regular cloth belt still, so I sold that for 9x. Oh, I was trying to figure out what this was. So somebody PM'd me, my auto reply hit him, I was AFK. 2 minutes later he says, fuck you asshole, and then I tried to respond to figure out what he wanted, and he logged out. Or he put me on ignore. I don't know which. I'm not sure what I did to this guy. I'm sorry for having an AFK thing, but that's my bad. What have we here? Oh, guess what? It's another legacy %ES ring, 13x. I have a lot of these. I crafted a lot of stuff before this roll went legacy, not really expecting to go legacy, just like crafting items to sell. This is a +2 unset ring with T1%, or sorry, T1 all res, T2 cold res, good mana regen, %ES. The only bad roll is the 1 flat. I don't know if this guy was going to annul it or not, but 13x for something that I chaos spammed and spent an X on, sure. Oh, this was before I started crafting Honor Girdle. This was like right before it got finished, and this is after it got finished. So it had triple T1 suffix with S Hysteria penetration, and T1 wed as a prefix, right? So I tried to annul off the armor, failed, and then I just recrafted the rolls. If you look up best craft of my life Honor Girdle, you can see the exact moment where I slammed perfect T1 wed into perfect T1 life. It was such a good moment. The spell has since been mirrored 2 times so far, and I have a couple people working together the currency to get the next service on it. But it's definitely my favorite item that I've crafted. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. If you want to mirror any of my stuff, the thread is always linked in the description below the videos. I took a lot of screenshots of it. Yeah, there's the first mirror service. I don't know why I didn't screenshot the window, but yeah, he mirrored it like the day after. As soon as he saw the video, he came to me. He's like, "I need that belt." I was like, "Okay." The fee was at that point 100x, so good currency income for me. I spent about 800x on it. Making 100x back is nice, but since we're 2 services in it, I need to get 6 more before I'm in the green. Okay, case in point, I wanted to talk about this for a while. A lot of people don't know, when you get a corrupted chest in Uber Lab, say something that drops sacrifice fragments, like those are corrupted chests, right? You should check all of the items on the ground by holding Alt. I did that, this is in Standard League, I checked the rare items especially because like rare gloves, rare boots, rare helms, you can get some pretty good corrupted mods on them. And this was a pair of gloves that was just sitting there, hidden by my loot filter. I would have missed it. It's right here, hidden, and like, it has level 12 LE weak on hit, accuracy, life, dual res, mana. Like, that's insanely good for an LE weak on hit pair of gloves. And yes, it is corrupted, but with Riichi 8, you can socket and link corrupted items. So I just 4 linked it, and I don't know if I sold this yet, but it's a ridiculously good pair of gloves. What have we here? Oh, okay, so some of you are maybe aware of this, but I haven't done one in a while. I do enchantment services for lab on standard when I'm not busy in league. And like, you can come to me for boots or gloves or helmets. Helmets enchants are very expensive, but the service works as such. You provide me with twice enchanted, you provide me with offerings to the goddess and your item. I will run the item until I hit your enchant, and then I will trade everything back to you that's left over plus the item for my fee. In this case, it was a pair of boots that he wanted regen on, didn't have the time to run it himself, so I got pretty lucky with it. I think I got it in less than an hour, but I got my 15x fee for it. If you want to run enchantment services in leagues, it's kind of hard if you're not a known person, because no one wants to give you their GG item to craft for them, basically, for like days. But if you're relatively well known, or if you have a good vouching thread on the forums, like if you do the service repeatedly over leagues and build up your reputation over time, then you can do stuff like this. I've been doing these for probably over 1.5 years now. For a lot of different people, like Afak, Amazon Prime, have come to me for services. Afak on his mirror boots. If you look up Bramble Stride, ruining Afak's Bramble Stride boots, I actually enchanted one of his 2-tone boots, specifically because he wanted me to. He eternaled it beforehand, because you can eternal off the enchant if you want the regular implicit back. But that was just a weird day, but it was really fun. We had a good time with it. Oh, this was just sad. So, sometimes people offer you really shitty amounts of currency for things. This is a 6-link 2800 armor chest, and he offered me 18 chaos on it. I think what he was doing was just PMing every single unpriced 6-link on the market for divines. He was just going to vendor them for divines and then flip the divines for slightly higher. But like, you gotta check what you're offering on, man. That's T0 armor, T2%, like, come on. And then of course, a couple hours later, actually it looks like the next day, somebody bought it from 4x. So there's a reasonable offer for it, because it has such bad life. If it had higher life, it would have been worth a lot more, but 38 life, not so good. Alright, this is a 350 maybe PDPS crit attack speed tiger hook, which is really weird. It usually has, I think, bleed on hit, not dodge. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. It was just a weird sword that I had for a long time. I used it for a build previously, and then just threw it in a tab randomly. And it finally sold later on for 15x, so sure. No, this is another enchantment service. I think he wanted attack speed, yeah. So there's he gives me everything I need and the fee. I take his item. I usually take the fee afterwards, but he gave it to me right up front because I was streaming at the time. Ran it for a couple hours, brought it back to him with his enchant that he wanted, and got my fee. Alright, so this is another one of those rings that I'd crafted for my Chaos Wander. It's T1 Fizz, T2 Dex, T1 All Res, it added Chaos to attacks, which is not a roll that you can add to rings normally, and percent ES again with Legacy. Similar price as the previous rings. The other ones were a little bit higher because they didn't have Dex, they had like Int. but this one I sold for 40x. And this was another example of a weird ring. This is the same guy. He wanted to craft this one himself. So I chaos spammed steel rings a long time ago to get triple T1 bases. And this was one of the rings that I wanted to finish before %ES went Legacy, but I didn't really have the currency on hand to do so. So I just listed the base for a decent price and then wait. And this base sold for 40x. Just simple chaos spam, cleaned up the prefixes, and then left it in a tab. Alright, so example of an amulet to evolve for +1 curse or +1 max res or some other good implicit. A lot of unique amulets are worth nothing, like Stone of Lazar, the Anvil. There's a ton of them. And if you evolve those amulets, they become worth a lot more. So this one, it got evolved and it got +1 curse on it, which turns it from a 1-out vendor trash to 2 to 3x. So be on the lookout for stuff like that to evolve. Alright, what have we here? This is a decent armor, life, tri-res, rustic sash with move speed. Not too insane, like pretty low tiers on the res rolls, but otherwise pretty good. Sold it for 2x. Okay, so this is a Brutus-led Sprinkler ring. It's got strength, it's got wed, it's got life, it's got resist, it's got int, life-based left side of the tree builds, always need int. It's got T1 wed specifically and T2 life, which is really nice. And as you can see, this guy is a berserker, so he was most likely playing Brutus-led Sprinkler, and I sold him this ring for 20x. Okay, this one I'm not really sure why it sold, I'm gonna be honest here. 6-link Carcass Jacks with the new area damage roll, which goes up to 50%, are usually around 10x. This is a legacy version which had less area damage, but I had evolved it for cannot be knocked back, which is an interesting corruption, but not really useful in anything other than PvP, so I'm not sure why he bought this for that much. It should have been worth a little bit less because it has the old rolls and a weird implicit, but I don't know. I think I just forgot it was in that tab. Either way, it sold for 10x. I don't know what that screenshot is. Alright, so this is in Standard. I did a couple maps randomly. This is actually right as somebody subbed to me on Twitch. Caught me off guard, and at the same time a Shav dropped, which is I believe this is like the third Shav I've ever had dropped in my career, the last 3 years or so of playing PvE. So it's just a really cool moment, even though they're currently worth literally nothing. I think they're like 20C for this roll on Standard, because they've gone Legacy twice now. But it was just a really cool moment. I like seeing T1 uniques drop because they are so rare, even for someone who plays as much as I do. Oh, this was a interesting craft on stream. So I picked up a Viridian Jewel. It was terrible. I chaos spammed it like 3 times. It had physical damage, melee damage, area damage on it. I then checked it, made sure it had an open prefix, which it did, and then I exalted it and I hit life. And suddenly this worthless jewel becomes like 20x. I spent, I don't know, an X and 5 chaos on it, 3 chaos on it. This jewel is insane. It's so generic, good for any attack-based life build. I don't know how I just zoomed in. But yeah, I was pretty happy with that little moment of RNG. Another streamer RNG moment. I walked into a Vaults of Aziri, said, I expect to get nothing out of this map. First chest I clicked, drops an Aziri's Acuity card. And I was like, okay. I've never even seen this card drop. I didn't even know where it dropped. I never do this map. Yeah, I got pretty lucky on that one. Oh, this was just a really good flip. I saw this on PoE Trade for 1x. And it's a really good enchant. Like, that's the best in slot Discharge Helm enchant. Especially for life-based discharge with the Rat's Nest. Like, that's the very best enchant you can possibly get. It's the Uberlab version. He had it listed for an X, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll buy it. What is this? Oh, I was essence crafting random crap in my stash. I spent like 3 of the T0 life essences on this helm, and I managed to hit T0 life, T1 life, or sorry, T1 life hybrid. So it's a really, really good base to work on as like a craftable base. And I only used 2 essences on it. I was like, what the heck? Okay, so a while back on YouTube, I made a video about how to make a +3 Chaos Staff. That was when Dark Pact first came out, and when the roll to get +2 Chaos Gems had just come out for staffs. And like items in general that didn't exist before. So I crafted one in that tutorial and threw it in a tab for like, I don't know, 15x or 20x or something, and left it there, forgot about it. This guy approached me with a perfect Legacy Implicit Astromentus and a perfectly Divine explicit roll. These are like 40x or something, and I didn't have one at the time. I kind of collect perfect uniques occasionally, and he offered me this instead of X, and I was like, okay, no question, sure, I will take that, thank you. And then it was a good trade. I'm okay with that. He was happy, I was happy, we both won. Yeah, and here's the staff itself. I think this is the one that I crafted in the video, but if you just look up how to craft a +3 chaos staff, you'll find the video. It was worth like maybe 10, 15x, not 40, but you know, if somebody offers you more than you think it's worth, take it. Alright, here's one of those jewels we talked about. Triple damage life jewels, very, very expensive, especially for two-handed RT builds on standard. This is a generic one, it works for any two-handed weapon, so swords, axes, maces, whatever, it works. For all of those, it's very well divined. I sold it for 25x. I think I was using it on my Flying Purple People character for a long time, but I wanted to get more attack speed on my jewels, so I swapped it out for one that had attack speed. Oh, this is a weird trade. I crafted this blue pearl amulet a while ago and didn't know what to do with it. It was very close to being almost like very close to being mirror tier, but it wasn't quite there, so I threw it in a tab for like 60x or something to get rid of it because I didn't want to look at it anymore. This guy approached me with a perfectly divined Belly of the Beast, like 100% perfect. Perfect armor, perfect life, perfect all res. 6 link, non-corrupted, so it was clean. And he also offered me a +1 curse Vol's Devotion, which I don't know why this thing's popping up. There you go. And I think that's like 20x, and the Belly was worth, I looked up all the other perfect ones, and they were like 30 to 40x, so it was a fair trade value-wise. And the amulet was this, which is just like almost there, but not quite. The spell damage isn't T1, but the life, the mana, the dex are, or sorry, the int is, the dex is T2, and I crafted crit on it. It's a very, very good Mind Over Matter amulet. Not quite good enough, but still very, very good, and he wanted it really bad, so I took the trade, no problem. Another quad damage jewel, we've talked about this, 3 to 5x value every time, unless it has multi, in that case go a little bit higher. Another one for prop damage jewel. These are both for two-handed melee build. I don't know what build he was playing. He's a berserker. Probably Cyclone, probably Earthquake, Cyclone, something like that. He bought 2 of them. Alright, you remember that +2 tornado shot projectile Tempest Binding we got in a trade earlier? Here it is being sold for 37x. This is before we knew it was Harbinger wasn't going core, but still, pretty good trade up. Alright, these are a Red Nightmare. This is from Chayula Breach. Chayula Breach Lord, sorry. And these usually sell for like 8 to 12x, but I just had a couple from Breach League still. Just slowly trickling them out at 8x per, sure. Oh, this. I bought a triple multi Viridian Jewel for like 20c, exalted it, and I hit the hybrid accuracy crit roll, which turned a, you know, 20c jewel into a 50 plus, 100 plus, 200 plus x jewel. These don't exist. Like, there is no other jewel like this with triple multi. And that roll is unique to Viridian Jewels. You can't get it on Cobalt or Crimson Jewels. So I thought it was really cool to have, and I think I'm currently using this on my Costar's Discharge character. Which, of course, if you want to see the build guide for, links in the description to that playlist. And here it is after I divined it to 1 off perfect. Yeah, the accuracy rating can go up to 10, but it's perfect crit, perfect multi, perfect multi, perfect multi. So in total, that becomes, what, 51% crit multi on a jewel with accuracy crit on it, so you crit better? Like, it makes no sense. It's so good. Okay, so this is a caster amulet. It's got T1 cast speed, I think it's T2 crit, T2 multi, T1 life. It's got a little bit of ES, some lightning damage to attacks. Lightning damage to attacks doesn't matter for this because it's a caster amulet. I actually think I undervalued this. When I looked at it at the sale, I was like, wait. I thought this was supposed to be an attack one, but it's really a really, really good caster amulet. But still, 14x, I'll take that. Alright, another legacy percent ES ring. It's got high int, high ES, good res, and percent ES, 10x, sure. So attack-based wanders obviously are very powerful still. Kinetic Blast, Fall Power Siphon, whatever. They really want wands like this. This is a Tyrannical physical damage, which is T2. And I believe it was around 250 DPS or so, with added cold damage and T1 perfect crit multi. So it's a very, very good attack-based wand. And it sold for 7x. Oh man, this one I wish I had crafted percent ES on it because it would have been worth so much more. But it's a really, really good steel ring. So it's a steel ring, which means you want T1 flat fizz on it. It has that. It has T1 weapon elemental damage. It has int. It has a lot of resistances, so it's really good for a resolute technique type of character. And I crafted life on it. If I had crafted percent ES on this ring, it probably would have been worth closer to like 50, 75x. But because it just has crafted life, 24x. Insane ring though. If you just look up fizz and wed on steel rings, you can find one with an open suffix. Like, they're worth quite a bit. What we got here? Interesting belt. So it's T1 life, high resist, over 100% resist, and crafted wed. But it was corrupted because, again, it's a studded belt and those are terrible, so I evolved it. Hit 8% skill effect duration, which happens to be a perfect roll corrupted implicit, and that's really good for builds that want skill effect duration, like Scorching Ray, Essence Strain Contagion, like stuff like that. They really want skill effect duration. It also affects the duration of like your Vol Haste, your Immortal Call, your Molten Shell, like all of those things scales up with duration, so it's a really good overall DPS modifier and defensive modifier. And that turned this belt that would have been worth like maybe a couple chaos, 20 chaos maybe for a studded belt, to 12x. Percent ES ring, Guardian. He wants a lot of strength, he wants a lot of int, he wants a lot of ES. This perfect ES, perfect strength, perfect it. Like it's everything he wants. It's even got some dex on it because you're right side of the tree build, or sorry, top side of the tree build. You need dex. The only bad roll on this is the mana leech, but like there's really no other prefix you would want on an ES based character except for maybe life, I guess, if you're using Presence of Sheila. I don't know. Insane ring, 12x. That's actually kind of low, honestly. Alright, here's another mirror service. Same belt as before. This belt has been mirrored quite a bit, as you can tell. I think 3 or 4 times now, which is like pretty high for me since I've only done 19 total mirror services. This is a good percentage of them, but I upped the fee a little bit because there's nothing similar to it. Still, good money. Alright, so this is an example of a decent Venters. Later on in this, we'll have an example of a really good Venters, but to price a Venters gamble, you look at the quantity roll first. That's the most important roll. 10% quant is the max. Then you look at the total rarity, so this would be 10 quant, 37 rarity, and then you add the life onto that, so 50 plus life. It goes up to 60, I believe, and then you add the total elemental resistance to check on your PoE trade search. This one has 46% total res, so I put in 40 pseudo res, and there were a bunch of similar ones for around 3 to 5x, so I threw it in to have a 3x. But later on, I'll show you an example of a really good one. Oh, this bastard. Pika's one of my standard crafting bros. He had this ring from before, and it has T1 Wed, T1 Life, T0 Lightning 2 attacks on it. Open suffixes. He didn't have the currency to metacraft it in Harbinger, so he went and metacrafted it afterwards, and he finished it really, really fucking fast. He got dual T1 resist on it and open suffix, so he can craft crit on it, and then he just had to divine it up. And that's just, he got really lucky. Like, how long was that? 15 minutes to finish that thing? It's beautiful. Alright, we're back at it again with the triple damage life jewels. 25x, same price as the other one. This one did have attack speed on it, but I had a better one, so I swapped it out. Still, 25x for a jewel. I will take that any day of the week. Alright, so this is me buying Essences of Hysteria. I think I bought around 300 or so for 230x, looks like. And I sold them later on, but that screenshot is coming. I was going to use them on belts, specifically an Alt-Art leather belt, but I sold them to someone that you may know of who may have crafted some Hysteria Stygian belts. Off fact. Okay, here we go. This was an interesting trade. So this was right after they had announced that +2 Barrage was going Legacy. So I had a Headhunter listed for about 60x or so, which is what the going price was. And these were going for, Devotos with +2 Barrage were going for around 100 plus X. This guy approached me wanting to trade for the Headhunter, and I said, sure, I will take that, I guess. I'll sell it later, whatever. Oh, this was just sad. Somebody from stream brought me their Skyforce and a Vol Orb and just said, do it. And I was like, why no, please? So I did it, and it died. But at least it's got 3 off colors, right? That's always good. Alright, so this was an interesting one. I actually don't know if I should have sold this, but it's a legacy percent, legacy flat, legacy reduced dot, hybrid armor evasion shield. And the current T1s of energy shields, they can only get up to like maybe 380, 400 if you're lucky with triple T1s. And this has more than that. It also has 500 armor and a lot of resist and the reduced dot mod, so it's really good for low life RF, which of course this guy is playing low life RF Guardian. I think this was around 21, 22x, something like that. But I've had this shield for a long time, and it was one of those ones that I crafted with reduced dot when I learned that it was going legacy. Like, it wasn't worth much beforehand, but with reduced dot, once it goes legacy, the value spikes. Okay, this was on stream. I didn't understand what was happening here. He traded me a full inventory of like div cards and wisdom scrolls, and they took out all the wisdom scrolls. And I just stared at this for a while, trying to figure out what it meant and what he was trying to show me. And eventually stream shouted at me that it said Demi. I couldn't read this. If there's a D and an E, an M, and an I, which was really cool, and I appreciate that. But like when I was reading it, I saw a D and then 8 and then some weird squiggle. Like this was one letter. I couldn't differentiate it into an 8 or into an E. Sorry. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I appreciate that, man. I don't remember why this guy PM'd me this. I think he was talking in stream chat. I think it was Zugzwang, maybe. Something like that. Some Twitch name. I recognized the name. I didn't know why. So I asked him why I recognized his name, and he PM'd me in game with a stack of 61 mirrors with the name RMT confirmed. I don't know who he is still, but it was interesting. I tried to figure it out later. I still have no idea who the fuck he is, so I guess his reputation does not precede him. But I appreciate the humble brag. What do we have here? This is selling Annulment Orbs. These are all bought in Harbinger League for 4 to 5C per. This is 400 of them for 50x. 400 times 4 to 5C would be 1600 chaos, which is about 16x, so I'd say that's a pretty good profit margin. Oh, guess what that is? You guessed right. It's an almost mirror to your Legacy percent ES thing. If this was above 170%, it would have been in a mirror thread, not for sale. But because it's not, I sold it. And because it has the Legacy percent dot taken whatever, it's worth a lot more. It's also Legacy ES, so it's just a really good shield. It's insane. This was owned by Purple Plushies. We sold it for 60x. It probably could have been sold for like 100x if we waited longer, but sometimes you just want currency. So with some of that currency of purples and that 60x and some other stuff, I bought a mirror because we were trying to trade for the Altar Saffles frame from Offak, which we did end up getting. That video you can also find, biggest trade of my career. Altar Saffles frame. It was 1,520 exalts total, of which we put in 2 mirrors. I really wish I could get rid of this thing. Go away. There it goes. I guess you just have to yell at it. So this was in the middle of a crafting video, which I haven't actually posted yet. I should do that. I was scour chancing a +2 barrage hubris circlet, and if you scour chance an item that has a unique long enough, eventually it will turn into that unique. And so I would have ended up with a +2 barrage Crown of Eyes, which instead of being worth like 20-30x based on the hubris is now worth like 100 to 150x because it's the best in Sought Wander enchant on the best in Sought Wander helm. So I got really impatient during that scour chancing process because it was taking forever, and I just went and bought a Trash to Treasure prophecy. This prophecy turns a normal item into a unique item with a single chance orb, and since there's only one unique that you can hit on a hubris circlet, it guaranteed me a Crown of Eyes with 40x investment, 37x, whatever. Alright, so there we go. Back with the 4 damage drop Jules. You remember I said melee damage, or sorry, crit multi adds a lot of value. This has double multi, double attack speed with swords. So it's really, really good for like Blade Flurry, for Reeve, for Cyclone. Any of those things. And 6x. Again, multi. This is no life. This is an example of a double, like quad damage with no life, right? This is an example of triple damage with life and multi, so it's 30% multi while dual wielding, area damage, and life. That fits so many builds because it's like, it's so good for every attack melee build. Blade Flurry loves jewels like this, so I sold it for 18x. The funny part is, it's a corrupted jewel. Like this was a unique threshold jewel, I believe, and we just evolved it into this. You can't divine corrupted items either, so it had perfect life, perfect area, perfect crit multi, and this one is, I believe, perfect as well. So 4 perfect rolls on a corrupted item like that we spent a Vol Orb on. That's just hilarious. Sold for 18x. Oh, you remember that rat's nest from earlier that we bought for 1x? Sold it for 14x. Now again, the Altar Tabula gets trolled so much. I swear people don't recognize the Altar. But this offer was 15c, so it's better than the 20 fusing offer. But it's Altar, so yeah. This one I think was going to be for a Queen of the Forest character because Dex gives you evasion scaling. Every 5 Dex is 1% evasion. So it has Dex, it has evasion, it has life, it has like a ton of resist and rarity on a diamond base. So it's really good for like a crit, for example, a crit Blade Flurry build. You don't want any attack mods on a diamond ring for that. Not Blade Flurry, sorry, Blade Vortex, which is what a lot of Queen of the Forest builds were using. Or a Trapper, for example. This guy could have been a Queen of the Forest Saboteur. I have no idea. Either way, it sold for 6x. It's a really good ring. And of course, here you go. This is my first Uber at Zero run, right before 3.1 hit. I ran like 9 total, but the very first run we got acuities, which are now worth 100 to 150x because the instant leech went legacy. Yeah, I've never actually gotten an acuity drop before. I don't farm Uber at Ziri. I hate farming Uber at Ziri. The only time I do it is when I need to showcase a build for it, like a build that can do all in-game content. I try to take it through Uber at Ziri to show that as well, even though I suck really badly at the fight. So I'm using my low FRF safest lemon here, but the very first time we killed it, I got Vol Gauntlets. And this was live on stream, and it was really, really funny. If you type ! gloves, I think, in the Twitch chat, in my Twitch stream chat, whatever, it should bring up the clip. It's quite funny. Alright, so this is a +1 endurance charged headhunter. Normal headhunters are like 60-70x depending on the roll. This is a well-divined, not perfect, but well-divined +1 endurance version, which has approximately double the value, 125x. It's a pretty good sale. I believe I got this in a trade for something. I don't remember how I got this. It was in a trade for something though. I don't know. Either way, I've had it for a while, and I always used it when people were like, Demi, why don't you use a headhunter? So I would just throw this on, but then I just got rid of it because, I mean, I'll take the X over headhunter. I don't like headhunter. Okay, so this one's a funny story. This helm I crafted a long time ago. It's in a mirror crafting service, or mirror helm crafting video somewhere. But everybody told me this helm wasn't mirror tier because it's not. It's like it's an armor based helm and none of these rolls are T1, and I'm like all this other crap, and I'm like, okay, well, first off, the only similar helms to this are all in a mirror service thread. Any like 1k plus armor, T1 life, T1 armor, 120 plus res, like you can't find anything similar to this that's not in a mirror thread. So I had it in my mirror thread for a while, and it didn't get mirrored, but this guy wanted to mirror it, and then he was like, wait, can you just sell me the original, because I don't really want the copy. And so we spent like, I don't know, probably half hour, an hour back and forth talking about it, and he offered me almost 300x for it, which would have been more than I would have gotten if he mirrored it, right? Because I think my fee was like 30x. So I would have had to have been mirrored 10 times to get this amount of currency back, but because nobody's mirrored it in a long time, like ever, and I don't have any use for it personally, I instead opted to sell the original mirror item for about 300x, which is actually pretty normal price for like a non-perfect T1 best in slot meta item type thing. Like if you tried to buy a mirror tier weapon original for 300x, good luck. But if you do it on like an armor based helm or like a belt or ring or something, you can probably buy the original for 300 to 400x depending on the item. So I opted for a similar value and sold this for 400x. Oh, this is also one of Purple's mirrors. This is the second mirror that we bought to trade for off-X Altar Sapples frame. And what do you have here? Physical damage, projectile damage, ES int. I believe this guy was playing low life Doomfletch, which is really, really expensive but very, very powerful. Like this, I don't know, I could have sold this possibly for more, but it doesn't have a third damage mod. If it had a third damage mod with ES, it would be insanely valuable. But because it's only 2 plus the int roll, I sold it for like 3x. And here's selling the Hysterias to Afak. He crafted some insane Stygian belts with these, so if you ever want to look at those, just find his YouTube channel. It's just Afak, AHFACK. But I sold him all of the 300 Hysterias for 250x, so I think I profited about 20x off of that, but I was going to use them myself, but he wanted to really, really craft some Stygians, and he gave me a good price on them, so I was like, you know what, I'll bro deal ya. It's fine by me, I can get more later, and you really want to craft Stygians right now, and I don't, so have at it. He also bought a lot of Annulment Orbs from us. These are Purple's Annulments. We sold, I think it was just 4,000 Annulments for 444x plus some more 4s. So I believe 4,000 would have cost, what, 16,000 to 20,000 Chaos in League, which is 160 to 200x in Standard. So we almost tripled our money here. So these were a very good investment to bring out of Harbinger League. And there's the rest of them. Oh, this is another one of +use items. He got this in League. This is in Standard after the League ended, and we knew that this enchant was going Legacy at the time, so these are very, very expensive. We sold it for 172 exalts, which I think he paid. He either enchanted himself or paid like 30x in League. It was one of those two. I don't remember which one. But yeah, these are extremely valuable because Tempest Bindings are not going to be in the core game for another League, not until 3.2, and then they're only going to be a Xana mod, so we don't know how hard it's going to be to get a Tempest Binding, but because this enchant went Legacy, and this is the only time you have Tempest Bindings in Standard, there was like a very, very short period of time that you could potentially hit a Tempest Binding with +2 Barrage, and it will be the only little window of time ever in this game where you can get this helm with this enchant, so that's why they're so expensive. Alright, here's the second mirror service for Honor Girdle Rustic Sash. Again, the best craft of my life. This belt is so good, and this guy mirrored it. There's my 100x fee. I love this belt. It's alt art, 61s, it's beautiful. It's Hysteria Penetration, so it's like one of the highest DPS belts you can get in the game right now. It's just beautiful. Alright, this was a weird trade. So I had a second Headhunter from Purple, listed for about 65x. This guy approached us with an offer of a Legacy Triple T1 plus 2 Barrage Hubris Circlet. It's Legacy ES, Legacy Percent, Legacy Hybrid, T1s, all of them, with the plus 2 Barrage. So this has a couple options. Number one, we can just sell it as is for quite a bit. Number two, if nobody buys it as is, we can always scour chance the item into a Crown of Eyes, which becomes worth way more than the 65x this Headhunter would be worth. So it was like a trade up, but also like a side upgrade because it might not sell for a while. But Purple said it was worth it for him to take that risk, so we took the trade. Alright, remember that really, really good Venters we talked about earlier? This is it. This is the definition of an almost perfect Venters. It's 1 off perfect life, perfect quant, 4 off perfect rarity, extremely high resist, no negative rolls anywhere. I've had this for a long time, and it's actually is owned by one of my viewers in stream chat. I don't remember who you are, so if you were the owner of this ring, I need you to somehow prove it to me so I can give you your money, because this is your currency. I think I was supposed to get like 30% of it or something, but I don't know. It's been in my tabs for like 2 or 3 leagues. I don't even know if the guy plays anymore, but this is his currency. So like, if you recognize this Venters, please approach me. If you're lying to me, I will know, because I'm pretty sure I have you on my friends list, but I'm not 100%. I'll recognize your name, but like, I don't remember offhand. This is an insane Venters though, for like Magic Find characters. Alright, we're almost done. So this is the actual Alt-Art Sapphiles trade that I've been talking about so much with Hafak. It was around 1520 exalted total. This is an Alt-Art Prismatic Eclipse, Alt-Art Soul Taker, Alt-Art Brightbeak, 2 mirrors, like 400x, and then another like 500x or so for the Alt-Art Sapphiles raid. There's 141 of these total in the game of hundreds of thousands of players. A lot of them have been collected, obviously, or hoarded, or on somebody's account already that they don't play standard, they don't give a shit about it, whatever, or they quit the game, I don't know. Anything else, like, they're worth usually around 10 mirrors. We paid about 8 mirrors for it. Afak bro dealed us because he knows that Purple wanted this. He also wanted it to like stay in the family, quote unquote, with people that he knew, like myself. He didn't just want to sell it to a random person, but he wanted X to craft the new bases and the new rolls and the new Stygians, all that sort of stuff. And he didn't like the way this looked, but Purple has always wanted this. I've actually always wanted one as well, but that's just too much currency for me to justify. I'd rather craft like 50 things. But yeah, as of when we bought this, there were 7 left on PV Trade and on the forums. Just 7. So we got one of those. It's pretty exclusive alt art. It's from 2014, if I remember right. So it's like 3+ years old. There's less than 7 left on PV Trade. It's incredibly valuable. It's very beautiful. Alright, here's another example of a trade up. This is a Rat's Nest with 3 additional Molten Strikes and 2x for a Red Nightmare, right? Red Nightmares are usually around 8 to 12x. I had this one listed for 10. He approached me with this helm and the 2x offer, and I was like, let me check the offer, or check the value of it. This helm with this enchant is around 15x. So I was already ahead of value there, plus the 2x, so I opted to take the trade, because it's a trade up. And this should be easier to move than the Red Nightmare, I would think. I haven't sold it yet, but this was like a week or 2 ago, so I don't know. It'll sell eventually. If anything, I'll just use it myself. That's an insanely good enchant. We just gotta get Mathel to make more builds with Molten Strike in it. Alright, what is this one? This is an item that I actually just crafted last night, I think. Yeah. Stygian Vice, the new Abyssal Belt with an Abyssal Socket. I crafted this in about 11 minutes. So if you want to see this crafting video, just look up Behemoth Shackle Stygian Vice crafting, because like, I bought a base for 30x I-86 Stygian Belt, Chaos Spammed it for the prefixes, T2, T1 Life, T1, new T1, 50% wed. And then I metacrafted the suffixes for dual T1 resistances and crafted the third. It's in my mirror thread, of course, link below. But like, incredibly, incredibly lucky. I think I spent like 60 or 70x total making the belt. And it's just, it's the best hybrid Stygian Vice available at period. Like, right now I have Trapped Mind Damage on it for Kinetic Blast Minor, but I've actually swapped that for Flask Effect Duration, because that fits more builds. But yeah, mirror it. It's great. And I think that's it. Alright, so that is the end of the video. Yeah, I know these are always really long videos. If you manage to stick through to this long, I very much appreciate that. Leave a like, leave a comment, share the video with your friends, follow me on Twitch, and if you really like the channel and want to support me in what I do, there is also a link to my Patreon below. Any support goes a really long way. YouTube and Twitch are my full-time jobs. So, either way, love you guys, thanks for watching the video, and that'll be Demi out. See you in the next one.